Okay. We were talking about then the complements for the third conditional: would have, could have, and the should have and could have. Very quickly, let us analyze this, which is should have and could have, which are also part of the third conditional. Okay, any question before I continue? No?
No, teacher.
Okay, thank you. Let's begin here. Experts in the wild. Tell me, has anyone ever gone to an expedition?
No.
No, miss.
But it was a long time, like 10 or 12 years ago. I don't
Oh.
remember.
Okay, that's good. Where did you go?
African Safari in Puebla. It's a
Okay.
park
Mm-hmm.
for the
Okay,
animals.
yes. Mm-hmm. Did you like it?
That case me too, teacher.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, probably this is the nearest we have been to a safari. Yeah, that's okay. Well, I remember, does it still exist? Because Jose Eduardo, you were there probably, how long ago you said? 10 years ago?
10 years or 12 years, I remember.
Okay. But imagine, I also went there when I was 17 or 16 years old. Probably it was the Stone Age. And, but it's the nearest or the closest we can be to a safari or to an expedition. Okay. Well, today we will hear about the experience of these two girls, and one of them who has gone to an expedition. Okay, something. And then, well, okay. First of all, let's begin by checking these words: mammoth, tracker, trumpeting, and tusks. Does anyone have any idea what tusks are? But not in Spanish. Not in Spanish, in English. What are tusks? An idea?
I don't know, teacher.
No? Okay, when you see an elephant, you see the trunk, but then you also see the tusks.
Los colmillos.
You know, those poachers, illegal hunters, usually kill elephants for the tusks because of the material they are made of. You know, tusks are made of ivory, and then ivory is, well, okay, is very precious for them. Okay, so they kill elephants just to extract the tusks. That's all what they do. Okay, so these are the tusks. And the tusks are made of ivory. Let me put it here on the chat. Ivory is the material that tusks are made. Okay, trumpeting. What do you think trumpeting is? You know, if you see the elephant has the trunk. Yes? Can everybody imagine the trunk?
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
All right. Well, and trumpeting is the sound, okay, that probably elephants can make using the trunk. And then, you know, the trunk is like the hand for the elephant. All right. An elephant is a relative of the mammoth, and everybody now knows that mammoth is extinct. Well, okay. Let us try to complete this exercise 3. Ideas. 1, 2, 3, 4 volunteers.
Me, teacher.
Okay, thank you, Alex. The one that you prefer, 1, 2, 3, or 4.
The one.
Okay. Just read the definition.
Two long teeth of the outside of the mouths of some animals. The answer is tusk.
Right. Do you remember, Alex, any other animal apart from the elephant that may have tusks? No matter if it's extincted.
Y,
Don't remember the name, but But
Say it in Spanish, don't worry.
es el mamut y aparte el otro que sale en la era del hielo.
El tiger.
Ese es el tigre.
Saber. It's a saber. Okay, let me put it here in the chat. Is the saber tooth tiger. Es el
Dientes de sable, ¿no?
Ese, es el tigre dientes de sable. Sí, lo recuerdan, chicos. Y sí salen ahí en la era del hielo y salen los tusks así. Obviously, it's extinct, but okay, it counts. Tusk. Maybe the other is the walrus. I think the walrus, la morsa, también tiene tusks. Así. Well, okay.
También el jabalí.
Oh, yes, it's true. It also has tusks.
Punto extra.
Not this time. But okay, good try. Thank you. Number 2. Any idea? Yes, dear, go ahead.
Hi, teacher. The second is tracker.
Okay, but read the definition, please.
A person who shows you the way. Ay, perdón, Fati.
Okay, da Leila y después vamos con Fátima.
Okay, a person who shows you the way in a wide place is a tracker.
Okay. All right. Now, yes, Fatima, go ahead.
An extinct animal similar to elephant, mammoth.
Okay, so the mammoth, right. Actually, do you remember those woolly mammoths? Like woolly because they have a lot of fur. Like, what was the name in the Ice Age? What was the name
Muddy.
of the mammoth? Manny. Manny. Okay, Manny is an example of woolly. Okay, thank you. 4.
The noise made by elephants is trumpeting.
Right. So that beautiful sound that they make, okay, that is trumpet. Very nice. Well, okay, this is what the listening will be talking about. We will hear 2 people, Emma and this other girl, Beth. All right, and so listen to the stories and let's look at them. 5 is the children. And okay, so this is look at the bench. Megan, could you please read? Could you please read, Megan, these 6 sentences?
Yes, miss.
Please.
She got her gear and got out of the tent. She had to take her mosquito net off her face to eat. She was bitten by mosquitoes. The trackers woke her up by shooting. They made a meal of rice and fish. When she went back, 3 of the tents were destroyed.
Okay, thank you. Just remember, tent is usually used when we are going camping. So that is the tent, right? Like the house, improvised house that people make. That is the tent. Now the gear, what is the gear? All the different things, that we carry when we are going camping. It includes the tent and it includes probably some other part of the equipment that is part of the gear. Okay, and then, well, let us listen to the recording and let us try to decide who says what, Emma or Beth. So this is what we are distinguishing, right? Let us get a screenshot of this so you can listen to the recording and analyze.
The first real eye-opener.
Are we ready?
Yes, miss.
Yes? Okay. Here we go.
The first real eye-opener I had of what life was like in the African forest was on my first ever expedition. It was the first day, and we ended up making camp early that evening. I was exhausted, and I fell asleep right away. About 4 hours later, I was woken up by a lot of screaming and shouting and the words Njoko, Njoko. It was the local trackers shouting. Then I heard loud trumpeting and sounds of heavy steps. Basically, we'd put our tent in the middle of a giant elephant path. We couldn't have picked a more inappropriate place. By the time I'd managed to get all my gear and get out of the tent, all of the trackers and all of the local guides had already disappeared into the night. When we came back, 3 of the tents were completely destroyed. That was my first taste of where not to set up camp in the forest.
A couple of summers ago, we went to Siberia. We were looking for mammoth bones and tusks, and even hoping to find some mammoth mummies. We flew in on a small plane. It's pretty remote, and there are no people there. When you land and get out of the plane, you look around and there's nothing there. And you set up your camp and there's still nothing there. And you're sitting there relaxing in total silence and there's nothing. Then all of a sudden, you're joined by 10 million mosquitoes. I remember we made this kind of rice and fish dish for dinner, and we were sitting there trying to enjoy this rice and fish meal, being eaten alive by mosquitoes. We had nets over our heads, but they were totally inadequate. The mosquitoes could still bite you, and you had to take the net off in order to eat. Every time you did that, hundreds of mosquitoes landed all over your face. They got in the food as well. It was just 1 part rice, 1 part fish, and 1 part mosquito.
Obviously.
You could go crazy after just a few days of that.
Look, imagine. So you were eating not only the rice and fish, but also the mosquito. Well, okay, lots of protein. And okay, remember, we are listening to 2 people talking, Emma and Beth. And we need to identify who says what, which sentence is referring to Beth, and which sentence is referring to Emma. Yes, Jose Eduardo.
They girls have a Australia accent.
Why? Because it's difficult for them because it's difficult to understand them.
Maybe.
Or why? Mm-hmm. Well, supposedly the first girl is British, supposedly. Mm-hmm. The second one, I don't know, probably Australian. Did you know that Australian people usually have a very particular accent? Well, okay. Opinions. Is that enough, or we listen to the recording one more time?
Can we listen to the recording one more time, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Here we go. Let's listen to one more time. Here we go.
The first real eye-opener I had of what life was like in the African forest was on my first ever expedition. It was the first day, and we ended up making camp early that evening. I was exhausted, and I fell asleep right away. About 4 hours later, I was woken up by a lot of screaming and shouting and the words Njoko, Njoko. It was the local trackers shouting. Then I heard loud trumpeting and sounds of heavy steps. Basically, we'd put our tent in the middle of a giant elephant path. We couldn't have picked a more inappropriate place. By the time I'd managed to get all my gear and get out of the tent, all of the trackers and all of the local guides had already disappeared into the night. When we came back, 3 of the tents were completely destroyed. That was my first taste of where not to set up camp in the forest.
Okay. Well, if you like, let us analyze which statements refer to Beth. Any opinion?
The last one. When she went back, 3 of the tents were destroyed.
Okay, that is one. Thank you. Any other?
Got Sheer gear and got out of the tent.
Okay, that is also. And the last one. Okay. Any other?
The number 4, the truckers woke her up by shouting.
Okay. Right. Now let us listen to the other girl.
The first is Emma or Beth?
The first one is Emma.
Okay.
Okay, let's check the second girl.
A couple of summers ago, we went to Siberia. We were looking for mammoth bones and tusks, and even hoping to find some mammoth mummies. We flew in on a small plane. It's pretty remote, and there are no people there. When you land and get out of the plane, you look around and there's nothing there. And you set up your camp and there's still nothing there. And you're sitting there relaxing in total silence and there's nothing. Then all of a sudden, you're joined by 10 million mosquitoes. I remember we made this kind of rice and fish dish for dinner, and we were sitting there trying to enjoy this rice and fish meal, being eaten alive by mosquitoes. We had nets over our heads, but they were totally inadequate. The mosquitoes could still bite you, and you had to take the net off in order to eat. Every time you did that, hundreds of mosquitoes landed all over your face. They got in the food as well. It was just 1 part rice, 1 part fish, and 1 part mosquito. You could go crazy after just a few days of that.
Imagine they got in the food. You know what? If it were a bunch of mosquitoes. Yes, the second girl is Beth. Okay, I had put another answer here. Well, okay, so obviously numbers
2, 3, and 5 is Beth.
Okay, is Beth. So she was eaten alive by mosquitoes. You. And then the meals, imagine. The meals were fish. What was the other? Rice and mosquitoes. Okay. Disgusting. But okay, well, take a look at these sentences. These girls, for example, were using some of these should have or could have. Remember, not because this is third conditional, but we continue with the same. We use should and could in the past. In this case, we need to make that combination with have and the verb in past participle. Look, died, avoided, checked, gone, and put up. Well, maybe here you don't notice, but it's a verb in past participle. Okay. Now, just listen to this sentence. We could have died. Could anybody please tell me this sentence, but using the contracted form, please?
We could die.
Okay, that one. We couldn't have avoided the insects. Okay, the same, but in the negative. Couldn't have avoided the insects. Okay, 3, we should have checked the area before we camped. Could anybody please tell it to me with the contracted form?
We'd have checked the area before we camped.
Okay, here, should have, right? Is in this one. We shouldn't have checked. Okay. 4, we should have gone there at a different time of year. Okay, one more time. If we make a contracted form here, this is we should have gone. All right. And finally, 5, we shouldn't have put up our tents there. Okay, so this is should in the negative. Now, remember that when we are using shouldn't, is because we are referring to a mistake that we made in the past. For example, I told my best friend a secret, and then my best friend was a really indiscreet person. I shouldn't have told her my secret. So this is when you lament that action. This is, okay, I shouldn't have done it. Okay. Does anybody remember who said we couldn't have avoided the insects? Beth or Emma?
Beth.
I think it was, we couldn't have avoided the insects. Really, Beth? This one, Beth, right. That's right. Well, okay. Questions?
No, teacher.
No? Are you sure? Well, another thing that we saw last class, well, here you have an explanation about this, should and could. Another thing that we saw last class, remember, it was certain prefixes that we use at the beginning of certain words. We probably mentioned polite, impolite, maybe patient, impatient, expected, unexpected, in, probably if we say inexperienced, maybe, uncomfortable, and etc. Well, okay, so these prefixes are used when we want to change the meaning of the word, particularly in the negative. Here what we have are synonyms. All right, for example, not likely, not experienced, not polite, not comfortable, not formal, not patient. Okay, and let me put it here. If we say not patient, this will be impatient, remember. So this is the prefix, impatient. If we say not polite, it will be
Impolite.
Impolite. Impolite. If we say perfect,
Imperfect.
right. So this is not perfect, it will be imperfect. All right. Remember that if we say not comfortable, we will say
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. If we say not real, we will say
Unreal.
unreal, that's right. If we say not intelligent, we will say unintelligent. Right. So these are what the prefixes are for. There are some other prefixes. Eventually we will see them. For example, if we say not regular, but this time it will be with ir. And so we will say irregular. Yes, is everybody following me?
Yes,
If we
miss.
say not responsible, for example, we will say responsible. We will say
Unresponsible.
irresponsible.
Irresponsible, sorry.
Mhm. Okay, that one. Does anybody remember the other prefix mentioned there? It was also with in, right?
Interesting.
But,
Uninteresting, I think.
okay, not interesting. We will say uninteresting. But that will be with uninteresting.
Unlikely to.
This one. Unlikely. So this is not possibly. But you see, if we say possibly, we say impossibly. And that is with the other. Okay, and here I think we have one more. This is uninteresting. And this is not experience. And we will say inexperience.
I have another one.
Yes, dear.
Unemployed.
Unemployed, right. If we say employed, we will say unemployed. Yeah, that's right. Probably if we say expensive, it will be inexpensive. Okay, and etc. Well, okay, all of these are prefixes, remember? And we can say in, ir, and in. Obviously, we also have this, for example, also pre, etc., etc. Okay, but the importance right now are these. Well, so that is why the vocabulary exercises contain these prefixes. Okay, well, questions about prefixes?
No, miss.
No, that's okay. Well, then let me just search this one with you. Okay, take a look at this exercise. Ready? Using this, in this case, they give us only 3 prefixes. Analyze sentences 1 and 2, please. If anybody wants to read it, but now with the prefix, please.
Can I
Teacher,
go first?
Okay, sure.
We might see an elephant today, but it's unlikely.
Okay. And that is the one. Thank you, Bruno. Yes, anybody else?
Me. The guy is great even though he's inexperienced.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Me, teacher.
Yes, Juan.
In my country, it's not polite to speak while you're eating. Impolite.
Okay. Yes, Robert, please.
I hate sleeping in a tent. It's cold, not comfortable, uncomfortable.
Okay.
Me?
5. Yes, Pam.
Don't worry about what to wear. The invitation says it's informal.
Okay. Thank you. And the last one, please.
I.
Right. Remember that this is my colleague. Mm-hmm. All right, there it is. Well, so you see, and this is the way we use those prefixes. If we were supposed, I was going to mention something. Here, in sentence number 4, can you see the way they are using the verbs followed by gerund? I hate sleeping. Yeah? This is something that you learned last course. There are certain verbs which are usually followed by another verb ending in ing. Right? Okay. There it is. Well, this is a reading that some of the people will be presenting. And just to finish with this, let me just remind you what accepting apologies and making apologies are. Remember that many times when we say, I'm sorry, please excuse me, or forgive me, etc. So this is when we say, or when we use these expressions followed by another expression ending in ing. Exactly the same way we said love, like, enjoy, hate, and then I told you, whenever you are using these verbs, they are always followed by another verb ending in ing. It will be here the same idea if you use sorry for, excuse me for, and forgive me for. These three expressions, which are referring to making apologies, so this is when you say, I'm sorry, they are always followed by another verb ending in ing. Exactly the same way we say thank you, for example, for. Well, let me give an example. Thank you for being there. And this is my verb ending in ing. Okay. For example, I'm sorry for being late. And here is the verb ending in ing. Please excuse me for not helping you. Even if it's negative, anyway, the gerund remains. So excuse me for not helping you. Forgive me for what? For not doing my homework. Now, forgive me for not what? Forgive me for losing the money, etc. Okay, so every single time we are making an apology using any of these expressions, or probably if we are accepting the apology, well, remember, these verbs are always followed by another verb ending in ing. Thank you for apologizing. Thank you for apologizing. And this is gracias por disculparte. Ready? Okay. Para que podamos terminar esta sesión, van a agarrar una de estas expresiones, I'm sorry for, excuse me for, forgive me for, thank you for, y la van a transformar en un enunciado. La vamos a poner en el chat. Yo voy a checar la asistencia con ese enunciado que está hecho. Si el enunciado no está en el chat, yo no le voy a poner asistencia al alumno. ¿Listos? Entonces les doy un minutito para que escojan cuál van a escoger, la que ustedes quieran. No importa. Nada más con que el enunciado esté bien hecho. Y córranle, chicos, porque nos quedan 6 minutos y nos cierra la plataforma. Y si a alguien le puse inasistencia, pues se queda con la inasistencia. Así que voy corriendo, cierro esto. Y me voy a la de mi plana para que podamos yo checar. ¿Listos? Los quiero ver enunciado que no esté. Muy bien. Michelle siempre sí llegó, ¿verdad? Ok. Michelle 3 también llegó. Todos estamos en el, ¿cómo se llama? En el chat de WhatsApp, ¿verdad? ¿Sí? ¿Todos? Bueno.
Sí, Miss.
Muy bien. Entonces, ahí está José Eduardo. Forgive me for playing video games with my brothers, especially during the class. Thank you. Ok. Chicos, como voy a ir checando sus enunciados, bueno, aquí le